Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ivy's Grove, and I'm Kelly. And happy December 1st. It is now Christmas season, and my hair is kind of all over the place. Um, Little strands coming on my face, kind of moving it a little bit here and there. So, anyway, I'm doing a VR by originally done by Night Willow Crafts, and her tag is Then versus Now Witchcraft. So it's pretty much like what you've done, like then versus now, like what you were then and what you have been now. And I've been doing this. I was trying to do the math yesterday, and I'm sticking with 29, but I could be off by a year. So I have to really sit down and really kind of figure it out. Um, but I'm pretty sure it's 29, and next year will be 30, if my calculations is right. So let's start on the. So yeah, that's a lot. Even if it's just 29, it doesn't matter 29 to 30 or 29 going on 30 next year. That's a long time from then till now. So question one. What title would you have called your path when you began then versus now? So if you do the math, 29 years, you know, that's back in early 90s, and that was Wicca. Wicca was the thing at the time. You had DJ Conway, Silver Ravenwolf, Scott Cunningham, Raymond Buckland, Raven Gramassi, Eden McCoy, uh, Gerald Garner, stuff like that. I still have a couple of Silver Raven Wolves. I still have a couple of DJ Conways. I still have Raymond Buckland's Basic Candle Magic. I still have that to this day, 29 years old. So it's a couple of maybe one or two of Scott Cunningham's. His original back in the night, that came out in the late 80s and really started to get more momentum in the early 90s and mid 90s. I still have those. But yeah, no. What title would you have called your path when you began? Then what Wicca, or sometimes pagan. It was at the time an umbrella term. But we also knew what pagan was too, just so everybody knows. Uh, so so mostly Wicca, and I think it was because it was more accepting of a word than the word which I use now, which is witch. It's a little bit more accepting for the most part. I would say 80%, 83% more accepting, unless, of course, you're in, like, Southern Baptist churches or just families who just don't understand it. So I call myself a witch. Back then, I always said Wicca, but there was only a select few that I would share that I feel comfortable with, that I might say witch. I would bounce between Wicca and witch. But now I am a witch. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more accepting, you know. So I now call myself a witch. Number two, what was your divination tool of choice? It was tarot, and then I was using the pendulum for a long time. And I haven't used the pendulum in like 8 years, but I've been itching to get back on the pendulum now. So, so divination is bouncing between cards and pendulum. So those are my divination tools of choice. I don't have one or the other. I bounce between the two. Let's see. Three, what was your view of deity? Back then, there was the I have a hard time pronouncing this. Eclectic Witchcraft was huge at the time, and never I've never I never jumped into that. I think the biggest thing was when it came to like sticking with a certain pantheons or certain, it was Celtic, Egyptian, Greek, and then you have eclectic when it came to stuff in Wicca back then. So when it came to deity, I went with more Celtic, but I never really worked with them until I was like more towards my 20s. And back then I've always read up on them. I know I know there's been a lot of pushing of the whole, we've been having a generation of not looking and reading up on it and just jumping in on working with deities without doing the research. Just so you know, back then there was some of us that did the research too. Um, there was a lot of us, believe it or not. It's just back then it was, I don't want to say correspondence. There was some correspondence. I don't like using the word correspondence. It was more like, you know, if you want to get to know a deity, you read up on it, and then there's some books out there that does, in order for you to help draw these, because you want to call correspondence or symbols to write on paper or get and to put them on your altar and ask them to come, what have you. There's been other books that were like more of, if you sense it, like they'll come to you. I view deity. I don't know exactly how I viewed them back then. It wasn't so much a fear, just respect. So that's why I didn't jump into it in the beginning. Just like, let me do my thing, let me do my spells, let me look into it more and everything else. In my 20s, I did work with a deity or two. And then there's this one deity I've been working with since my 30s. And I have a deity that I used to work with in my 20s that's been popping up. Just artwork, certain YouTube videos. And what made it final was the fact I was flipping through a book in Barnes and Nobles a couple weeks ago. And I'm throwing, it's still in Celtic. And I'm just flipping through, and this goddess, it's just stopped on a page, and this goddess was boom. I'm like, okay, you've been popping. I hear you now. Fine. So I feel that a deity will give you the signs, however they're gonna do it, to say, hey, I'm here. I'm here to work with you. What you need in what you need to be work on, or I can help you. So, and I have another goddess that is not Celtic that has been popping up every now and then. And I've been reading up on her. I'm not ready to share that one yet. So, yeah, so my view of deity back then was respect. I didn't jump into it. And I just read about it. And, they're just, they're, to me, back then were archetypes that you just want to you just want to make sure you read up on them. Now it's more of, they're around and they will let you know if they will let you know. You'll know when they're trying to get your attention. This is what I'm trying to see. I really can't explain how I view them. That's, to me, a word that's just the answer. I just couldn't really, it can't be black and white, plain and simple. Number 4, what did your altar space look like then versus now? It went through some changes. When I started out, Sorry with the arms. I say my arms. I'm sorry. Sorry. Just, it's nerves. Sorry. Not sorry. My altar space was in my bedroom. I was living with my parents, and I had my desk. That was my altar space. Then I moved with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, and I took my desk and put it in the kitchen. He had a desk. We put it in the living room, and I told him, I said, hey, this desk, we didn't have a computer, and I said, look, I said, this desk can be my altar because it's gonna be weird being put in the kitchen. He was fine with it. So my altar was his desk in our apartment, and then when we moved to Colorado after we got married, we left all our furniture there. We just left it there. We were going to start brand new. Got to Colorado, got some furniture, and then a couple months later, he came back with this handmade desk that was like quickly put together. That was 4 pieces of wood, like legs, 4 of them, and then was it not a plaque? What you call it? Plywood. And I can't remember if he threw it together or if it was already there and they were getting rid of it. He goes, no, I'll snatch it. I have an idea for it. I think my wife could use it. It was my altar while we were living in Colorado. We, after we were done, I think we gave it to somebody else and went to his next duty station. I was using the floor. We moved, we drove to my parents. I lived there when he went overseas, came back. By that time, we had a 1-year-old when he came back from overseas. And we drove back to Washington State. And during the whole time, I used the floor. And he asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I told him I wanted a altar. And he made me the altar that I wanted. And it beautiful piece of furniture. And I've been using it ever since. So that was back in 2000 2008, no, 2009. I believe it was 2009. He finished it and he brought it in. And what I had a general visualization of it when he came home with it, I was shocked, but in a very impressive way of how he made it. Of what he made out of that. Oh, I can't. Sorry, I don't mean to gush. I'm gushing. I'm gushing about my husband, how talented he is. I'm sorry. Yeah. So next question, 5. Have your ethics or morals changed? Okay, I get weird with ethics and morals. It's just I don't really think about it. I never really think of ethics. I think in general, like my ethics and morals is don't be. I'm gonna put it nicely. Don't be a jerk. Be nice, but don't take no shit. There you go. That's my ethics and morals. Be kind, what have you, but at the same, but on the other side of flip a coin, don't. There's a point where you just go, yeah, I ain't taking no crap anymore. I'm done. So that's my ethics and morals, and that's both mundane and the craft, both. Number 6, who did you recommend or go to for your main source of information compared to now? I always feel weirded out of for me to recommend somebody. I can give them. I like the phrase. Okay, here's some ideas. There's something about recommending somebody. I don't know. It's just. But to go to for my source of information, back then we had books. We didn't have the internet. We did, but it wasn't like it was even in the early 2000s. By the early 2000s, you were able to go in. But like 2000 and actually by like 2002, really, that's when you were able to really be able to buy stuff online. You were able to look at other people's journals, um, people in the community. There were groups that had forums, not like Facebook or anything like that. And we had witch boards. But mostly books. Now, first thing I would say is books. I would still go for books. Um, YouTube videos, that has become very vast. I think my channel, I believe, is 2 years old. Yeah, I think it's 2 years old last month. So, when it comes to recommending YouTubers, I did a video and I'm planning on doing another one later this month, but with a twist. So that's coming up next Wednesday, just so you know, of my recommendations of YouTubers for witchcraft. When it comes to books, again, Wicca, T.J. Conway, Raven Gomasi, Ravenwolf, what have you. But now we have a lot more. And the ones, I would still go for the Wicca books because they're great. I think they're good for what it was then and how far it has came. But don't brush it off. And there's some authors who have some books of spell books that have said, look, you don't need to be Wicca to do these spells. There you go. There's that one. With the stuff we have now, I have some authors that I think are really good. In particular books like The Witch's Mirror by Mickey Miller. Back when I was starting out, there was like little books and stuff, and there was only like a couple of pages about mirror magic. This is really good. I would so highly, this is a book I would recommend. Really, really good. Very well researched and everything. And it's such a unique tool that not a lot of witches for the past, like, I don't know, 17 years, even maybe more than that, haven't used mirror magic. It doesn't really get talked about too much. The other author, I have one of her books. This one is Air Magic, Elements of Witchcraft. This is the element. There's the Element of Witchcraft series, which is air, earth, fire. I still have to get water. But the reason why I'm bringing up air is the author of Astria Taylor. And I also have her book, Intuitive Witchcraft, that is really, really good. So, yeah, the four elements, and particularly Astria Taylor, is really good. If you're more into the traditional witchcraft, one of them is Gemma Gary. I'm sorry, Gemma Gary, Traditional Witchcraft, A Cornish Book of Ways, is really good. The Poison Path Herbal, Bandful of Herbs, Medicinal Nightshades, and Rituals, Kobe Michael. It's a really good one. There's sigils and stuff in there. If you're into sigils, and this is really good. This one, I believe, has been missing. This type of book has been missing for a long time. And I'm so stoked that it came out, and I jumped on it the second I saw it on Barnes & Nobles back in Connecticut. And it's of Blood and Bones, Working with Shadow Magic and the Dark Moon by Kate Fuller, forwarded by Matt Owen. By Matt Owen, forward by Devin Hunter, Psychic Witch. I know he just came out a book called Psychic Witch Spellwork, or Spellwork for the Psychic Witch. something I'm planning on getting sometime early next year, like maybe February, March time frame to get. When it comes to candle magic, I would still recommend Raymond Buckland because it's a very basic candle magic book. You can actually take that, and it's basic where you're able to go from there and use your head and use your imagination to use. And then afterwards, this is after working, doing your own thing a little bit. This is a really good next step. It's called the Book of Candle Magic by Madame Pempeta Pemete Pemete Pemeta. Candle spell secrets to change your life. And this one, where Raymond Buckland's more like spell work and everything, she talks about from like, let's see here. It's gonna be pretty long. Um, Yeah, you got your candle magic starter pack, practical candle magic, magic words, customizing your spells, planning your spells, making magic candles, the special magical figure candles, power and numbers, candle spell layouts, the cabinet of curiosities, candle reading, adding some ritual pizzazz. I'm done. What happens now? Create the grimoire. Try a candle spell. List of magical herbs. List of magical gems. List of magical shells. List of magical talismans. List of symbols. So she really, it's a thick book too. So yeah, this is really good. I would tell people to go to like Raymond Buckland, like some of the other ones in the '90s, and then try those, and then advance yourself in this one. And then the other one, I know, I know Night Willow Crafts has done a review with this one. Um, she she has some interesting she has an interesting way of talking about this book. Um, but I actually really love this book. It kind of reminds me back in like, when you read Silver Ravenwolf, and she brings up about, she brings up stories, certain, when she talks about spell work, she doesn't go just straight to the spell work. She has stories that had to do with that spell or the exercise. This is a lot similar, and it's The Path of Elemental Witchcraft, a Wired Woman's Book of Shadows by Sally Crow. And for us Silver Ravenwolf fans, you might like this. You might like this. It has it's elemental witchcraft. She has um exercises for water, earth, air. I believe spirit. It's been a little bit since I've read this. I'm planning on rereading it again next year, just to and then start doing some of the techniques. So that's what I like to do. I like to read it once or twice, maybe 3 times, um, between a couple weeks space, and then I start working on it. And yeah, she has water. Yeah, so it's like water witch is communication for the water witch, divination for the water witch, healing for the water witch. And then when it comes to fire witch, communication for fire witch, divination for fire witch, healing for fire witch, transformation for fire witch, sex magic for fire witch, um, earth witch. Again, communication, divination, geomancy, healing, and protection for the earth witch. Air witch is communication, divination, astral navigation, healing, enchantment. Yeah. So there you go. And there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's really 6. Yeah. There's a lot of exercises on these. So yeah. So when it comes to books, those are it. Like I said, YouTube videos. I did a video by that Sunshine State Witch. Like, don't watch me, watch this. So I did that one. So yeah, so that's my like Yeah, I would say now there's a lot more authors now that's coming out, and they are really really good. So it's good. There's a lot more broader prospect of Wicca, witchcraft, paganism, occult, what have you. I really went overboard on that one. Number 7, how did you start celebrating the season's Sabbats compared to what you do now? The seasonal Sabbats, I would do Mayborn and Samhain when I first started, but I didn't really at the time care for it back then. I was doing the spells, everything else, doing my thing. If I did, if there was a spell that I knew was going to complement the season, I would probably add the season into it, but it was very rare. And as time went on, little by little, I started doing a little bit more seasons. And the last like 5 or 6 years, maybe almost 7 years, I was doing more seasonal. And I'm thinking that the next year I'm going to do something a little bit different. So right now, I would say back then, no. But the past 6, 7 years, yes, I was doing more seasonal work. Has your celebration or spell work regarding the moon changed? Yes, in a way, like in the middle. Like when I started, oh yeah, the moon. Everything was about the moon. And I was just doing like the moon phases. I didn't do the moon in Gemini or what have you, or the moon in Libra. Um, After I had my two daughters, I was kind of in a stuck mode. So I kind of did what I needed to do, what have you, did some basic stuff. Sometimes I did the moon phases, sometimes I didn't. Past couple years, I was slowly starting to get back on it, and I'm really itching to get back on just doing the basic moon phases. I'm also planning on doing more like gibbous moon, like the gibbous waxing moon, the crescent waxing moon, the crescent waning moon. Um, Going into like the moon in Libra or moon in Cancer, what have you, maybe next year. I have an idea of how I might have an idea of how it might work. I might be able to pull it off. I might be able to walk into it. I still don't know. We'll see what happens next year. So, pretty much, yeah. Back then, yeah, very heavy. After I had my goals, not so much. Last couple of years, I've been getting back. Last few years, I've been getting back on it. So, kind of a bit of a wave with it. So, I think I will be getting back on it a lot more heavier, like I did when I was in my 20s and early 30s. So, I'll definitely be back heavy on it now. 8. Has your celebration or spell work regarding. No, sorry. What did that one? Oops. 9. That's the last one. 9. Has your use and tools changed since you've began? Herbs, crystals, wand, pentacle, candles, so on. When I like any witch, we started basic. I only had maybe a couple of crystals. I had a smoky quartz. I had a citron. I had a labradorite back when labradorites weren't big yet. The big stones were like the big ones were like citron and smoky quartz. Moonstone was also big. I still love my moonstone. Labradorite was not big, but it definitely has gotten big. Came the early 2000s and onward. Another crystal that I started working with before it became big, and that's black tourmaline. So, and when it comes to other tools, I did have a pentacle plate. I don't haven't had a pentacle plate in years. I'm thinking of getting a wood burning a wood burn pentacle plate. I do have a wood burning tool, so I'm thinking of trying my hand on making my own wood burning pentacle next year. So I have my own. So, and I wanted to add some certain stuff on it. So we'll see how it turns out when I start making it. Wand. Okay, this is weird. The wand, I've seen wands. They're beautiful. The crystals, what have you. I just haven't bought one. And I don't know if I ever will. And that's okay. That's why I have my finger. My finger is the wand. For a long time, this was the athame. But I bought myself an athame about 4 or 5 years ago that is made out of two different pieces of wood. So I have that. Herbs and crystals. Yeah, crystals I kind of split, but then I met my husband. He had a crystal collection, and then we accumulated some more crystals. So I have a bit of a crystal collection. And when it comes to herbs, that thing in there is some herbs in there. And I've been working into making my own herbal blends, but I tend to do towards more powdered blends than just loose herbal blends. I tend to do a lot of powdered. That seems to be my thing to make, as well as making my own oils. I do purchase other oils as well. So I try to see what I like, what I'm planning on making, and certain things I'll just be like, okay, I'll purchase somebody else's oil for them that they make here and there. Candles all the time. What witch does not work with candles? I don't know. I have not met a witch. You can do witchcraft without candles. There's I'm sure they're around, but I think they're rare. So, but for the most part, just like any witch, I fucking love my candles. Ask my husband. And I will say this though, the one thing that has changed also, the other thing is that the past 20 years, I couldn't accumulate a lot. I would say his last duty station, Connecticut, that's when I accumulated a little bit more stuff, because that was going to be his last 4 years in the army, in the military. And the reason why I accumulate a little bit more is because when you're in the military, there's weight limits. So after, so I have to show you sometime in my video how small my altar stuff, what this particular box I have, that used to be my husband's, and I snatched it up because that's what we wives do. That was our husband's. It's ours. Just, I know my husband's watching this. He's gonna go, huh? Part of him's gonna go, yeah, or he's gonna go, really. It's gonna be either or. But he knows I'm right. I love you, dear. I know you're watching. Mwah. I love you. Anyway, so that's my answers. Sorry if I was running off with my mouth. I had fun with this one, and I hope you guys jump on this bandwagon of this VL. This one was really fun. It's interesting to see how all of us were then and now. And so, anyway, don't get lost in the grove, getting out of here. I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you for watching.